What's up, guys, and welcome to the Coders Cantina. My name is Mike, and I'm your host tonight. So today we are trying to make more progress in the new project I am working on. The project is called Elum. It's an image server and cloud image server where we can deliver resized, cropped, whatever images. And yeah, let's head into the code without further ado, and let's check out where we left. Okay, it seems my screen capture is broken. Yep, we are back. So we try to work with different methods already regarding resizing. So we tried around and played around with the different methods I can show you. So we have a fit controller, then we have an original controller which delivers the original file, and a resize controller that resizes into given constraints. The main goal, as we have stated here, is also one of our main goals is to be compatible with my original implementation. And for that, I'd like to pull that code up. So it's in my development folder, and there is image server. So I would expect, nope, doesn't open. Then do it this way. So open it in a new window, and we have the old implementation. It is done via Lumen. So the main idea, or the main goal behind that, was to use a really stripped down variant of the Laravel framework to be very fast. But in the end, the overhead of using a full-fledged Laravel instance is not that big hassle. The biggest thing is actually, the image resizing, the image manipulation, the processing side of things. And that's where we stripped out the image magic in favor of a faster one. It's called libvips. And therefore I think, there is no trade-off or penalty for using a full-fledged Laravel, and it comes in handy of using all functionality that the framework comes with. So in this episode, I would like to focus on getting all the routes ready that I had in the initial implementation to get the image processing right. So if you go through, you can see there are also some cryptic variants. So the initial idea was that one of our clients already had some proprietary image server, which they discontinued, and we had to switch to a new solution. And for us, the easiest thing was to actually reverse engineer their API. So there was some documentation, and based on that documentation, we used the route naming scheme from their end to be one-on-one compatible with them. And over time, we switched from their routing scheme to ours. So and that's where these old things are still present. So that's something I don't like to carry over. So we can definitely stick to meaningful API route names. So the original one, I think, is done. Then we have a simple resize method that's already done if we switch over. So we have original and resize. Then we have a crop where we can give a width and a height, and then an X and a Y coordinate. And that's something I'd like to do next. So let's create the crop controller. This crop controller will extend our basic controller we did in our images folder, which helps us to form the response and also extract the format from the query params. And then we start with the thing that Copilot gave us. So we extract the path, or let's look into the fit controller. So we get the format, we call actually the image service with the params. So we actually copy that over to our crop controller. So we have no config for now. We have width, height, and the path, and then we also let the request be injected, and then we use crop x and y. Let's add the method. And let's see what we did in our last implementation, image controller. Actually, we can already go in the image servers. And there we have, oh, okay. I thought we had all the core logic there, but it's not the case. So let's open the image controller. Okay, there we have the crop. So we have this int max where we ensure that every omitted property or something that is 0 will be set to int max. That's the reason or the idea to have this sort of optional parameters. We have to look into that, if that really still makes sense to use this int max, because there can be optional parameters which make sense to not bound to PHP int max, but rather to 0, I guess. But let's find it out together. So with crop, let's try to mimic the same behavior. So we do image load the JPEG file we have right now. So that's also something we have to strip out and generalize regarding the format that is given. And then we have the crop, we write it to buffer, and let's see if that is already the idea. So it's elum.test, and we go for our test JPEG, and then we do crop. We would like to have 500 by 300, and we start at 400 and 400. So the route was not entered in our routes file, so we have a dedicated images route. So we add the crop, and Copilot does a really good job. And there you go. Let's see, we have a rectangle, an image with 500 by 300, and we start at 400 by 400, I guess. So let's start with 0 and 0. And as you can see, it's really fast. All right, that's good. Let's return a JPEG. Let's see if this also works, but I guess why not? So 44 kilobytes versus 44 kilobytes, so actually the same size. So let's move somewhere near the border of the image. So I remember correctly, it was 3000, so bad extract area. So that's something we have to account for, that users might choose a region that is bigger than the actual thing. So that's something we will limit here. So this image has a width property, and we will make sure that the width is limited by the image width. So if the width, if x actually plus the width is bigger, we have to limit it here. So in this case it would be image width minus x. Not sure if this works out, so let's get back. So we have x plus the width is bigger than the image width. So we will definitely start, we can do, okay, so we can do it with that, and same with height. So let Copilot do the magic, and now I think we should end with a smaller image, but without an error. So also make sure that x is max of 0 and x, and y same. So we limit those two params accordingly. Then let's head over to the original implementation. Then we have crop and resize. So what this does is it uses a cropping mechanism and then resizes the thing down. So I think that would also be an easy one. But to be honest, I'm not sure if this is still needed these days. But yeah, let's do it. Why not? Pub crop resize. Make a new controller, crop resize controller. Extends our base controller. Invoke. Then we have these params. Import our request. And then we call the crop resize method. Come on. Okay. Image is crop resize. Remove it to let the auto completion kick in, so we can add the method and let PHP Storm do the magic. So we have our parameters. We open the image. Then I think we should limit those 4 parameters as well. And then we do return image crop to our cropping. And then do thumbnail image and write to buffer with the format. This time I won't forget to add it into that route file, route get, crop resize, very long list of parameters, but that's how it is. So we have a crop area of 1000 pixel by 600 pixel. We go from 0 to 0, unclosed on line 7. Okay, shortcomings of Copilot. Oh, 600. So now we have a fairly large image, and then we can do crop resize and go for, now it's 1000 by 600, and we go 500 by 300, so half the size. And there you go. Then we head over to cropped rectangle, and there we also limit things. I'm not sure if crop rectangle, yeah, but let's do it anyways. So we go into our controllers, create a new crop rectangle controller, extend our images controller, let it invoke, and then we need let's go for these parameters, import the request, and now we can do the auto completion. Load the image. So, and now I make a protected load image. Let me give the path. And then we do it that way, and so we can select all of these and do this load image with the path. And we've done some refactoring. So next thing is that we return maybe something like that. So how does with X, Y, and then width and height, with X and Y, and then width and height, so a little bit different than our library we used. And maybe we go for Y is top first. That's not good. Flip. So we have left, top. Oh, that doesn't make sense. So let's look into the original. We have crop rectangle. We have top, left, bottom, right. Top. Okay. Shall it be top, left, bottom, right? Let's add it to our routes file. Route crop rectangle, top, left, bottom, right. So, and we want to have a rectangle starting 0, 0, top, left, bottom, so 300 by 500, class width not found, it's not a call, it's a property. And I think we cropped the rectangle. So if we move 100 pixels in that direction, it's smaller. Yep, 400 by 200. So what's the matter if we go 400? So we have to make sure that left is not bigger than bottom. That right, then right. But let's figure out that in a later step. The next thing is, so we've cropped rectangle, we've crop, resize and crop. So we have this fit thing, and then we have fit rectangle, which I'm not sure what it does. So we have to look it up. Image controller, fit rectangle. So it crops and then resizes. In my opinion, fit rectangle is the same as crop and resize. Crop and resize. Crop and then resize with the width. And null. That's interesting. But okay. How's it called? Fit rectangle. I'm not really sure about that, but fit focus makes sense. And that will be the first interesting one, to be fair. Fit focus means that you can define a spot that needs to be in the output image. So it's fit focus. And we have to rename it to controller. Extends controller, pub invoke. We need the same parameters. Import. And let's pass things to the service. Add the method and the route. Not crop center. Fit focus. So we have width, height, and then we have it's only focus with X, Y, width and height. It's only focus. X and we have Y. Let's move this method to the bottom. Image equals this load image, return image. And this time we have to figure out a good algorithm to define how to move the things into place. So let's look into, so we have a filter which crops focus. we crop and resize with something. With the So the idea, let me quickly draw that. The idea is, if we have our bigger image here, and then we can define as user, okay, this point has to be in the image, and then I define a crop area of 4x3, or let's do it 2x3, so we have 2 and 3 down, so it's more like this area, and this X has to be in the middle at best. So if X would be on that side, it would still be in the image, and if it's on the right, so let's remove that. If it's on the right somewhere there, and we define our output, it would focus on that area. So the idea, or my approach, would be to actually try to calculate this. So we have this X and Y coordinates. Let's make it a little bit smaller. So we have this dot here. Can you see it? Yes. And then we have to calculate actually a distance to there. So we have to limit things on the right. So that's our upper limit. Well, that's here our upper limit. And that will be our lower limit. So the thing is that we calculate. So let's iteratively generate this algorithm, let's say. So we have this X, and in an ideal world, this point would be half of the width and also half of the width. So we have X plus 1/2 width is our right side, and the left side would be X minus 1/2 width. As we all know, that this is the ideal world, we have to limit it to the whole width of the image. So let's call this left and right for now. So it's L equals that's the right actually. So the right border, and we have the left border. So then right equals max width and R, and it's not max, it's min actually. So we would like the smaller of those two. And then we do L equals R minus the desired width. So that's, let's take it with W. And then we have the desired output width. And that's also something we have to. L is max L.0. Okay, then bring that to code. So we have the right border equals x minus plus 0.5 of the width. Left border is the same, minus half of the width, and then we have to actually take the minimum of image width, so we can't exceed the image width. The same thing is here, so with max, we have the left border is that. Actually, the left border is the max of right border minus the width and limited to 0. So we can rename that to left, rename that to right. And then we do the same with top and bottom. And I'm not sure, that's not right, because width and height is already reduced in things. So but let's start with what we have. So we crop at left, we crop at top, and now we need actually, I think we can reduce the calculation a little bit, as we don't need we need it. So it's the width. How is this crop thing going on with the width? We have not the right border, we have the width. So let me get back to the thing. New size. Focus fit. Okay, it seems a little bit complicated here, but we'll figure it out. Okay, it's okay, that's the pivot point. So I thought this was an internal thing of the library, but it's actually userland code, so to say. But let's think about how to translate that. So yeah, we have to definitely calculate the offsets. So let's name the thing the same. So the pivot point so it's left and right. So we make left and top equals this pivot point, and we would need X, these things, yep. Add the method, protected, return. Actually calculate those things, so it's not size, it's, let's put width here to W. It's unused actually. No. So this is W and this is W. This is H. This is H. And then we have width and height, the image. So let's rename that to image. But first, let's do this, and then we go image width. Rename that to image height. And then we can go with that, and then we return optimize that a little bit. And return that. So we get the pivot point. So let's head over what we do with the pivot point. Focus size. Focus width. But what have we calculated here? We have maybe we use that approach, fit focus, left and right. We go image, draw, draw as much, whatever as much is. So we have left top, and we do 5 and 5, and then we return right to buffer. Let's see what we end up. So it's focus, and we want an image with 300 by 500, and we want the original one from 600 and 200 in the image. So maybe we go 50 and draw circle. Draw 0. Let's see what we end up. I would expect something to show up. Let's dial down with left and top and see what we end up. So it's at some far end. Oh, there's the circle. Focus. Why? I'm not sure. Okay, I get the flaw in the thing. Let's remove that. So I think we should rather go for percentages. I think that's also something we do in our front-end SDK while accessing those. Endpoints. So if we go X%, but let's go back to the image. So I would like to specify is it actually focus XY? So we have an XY in the original image. So for example, this circle, and this circle needs to be there. So if I would like to have a 16:9, so it would be something like that. So let's get back to our initial thoughts we had. I think it comes down to also orientation stuff. So if, for example, the height of this image is bigger than the width and our crop ratio is different, then we need just to focus on the Y coordinate, and otherwise we have to focus on the X coordinate. Because in the end, if I crop a 16:9, it would be something like, cut off here. So that's where I always struggle. I'm really bad at math. But maybe that's also something for another day. I'd rather focus and make some progress today. Let's remove this fit focus controller for now, and also remove it from there. So I think we have already some room to play with. The next thing I would like to focus on is we have these two modes of operation. So one is subdomain driven and the other one is URL path driven. And therefore, I think it's something we have to deeply move into I'm thinking if it's something we configure on an instance basis, so it's something we have in this app configuration, or otherwise perhaps we can do something like that. Let's call this function the routes and return it that way. And then we have route group prefix config. And then we have route group nothing, or just routes. So let's see what we end up. So we have the same structure, and I think nothing should conflict here. So we might have to limit some config names, not to be resized or something. So we will add something like a blacklist. So let's put it there, unique name with blacklist. All right, and then we can have something like, I think it was uploads in our example. Okay, focus is not there, so it's crop or fit into 600 by 200. Storage unable to open no such file. Okay. Fit works, but the other one not. So it's uploads. It would be good to see which route it took. So it took config with fate and path. So that's where I think we have to add the middleware. So it's make middleware, and it's config middleware. Middleware. As we have proper type hinting, we can get rid of that. So it will be request so we should go to all our controllers and add config as the first. Open that up as our first parameter config. Also add config here, original controller. Config here, resize controller, config here. So uploads does work, and what do we end up here? It also works, and now we have to inject XYZ into the config here. So let's open the fit controller. Let's actually make a breakpoint. So I'm a huge fan of using Xdebug. So I have my PHP storm properly configured to. Why doesn't it work right now? It's the fit controller, and we have a missing config, too few arguments. So that's why I'd like to introduce that middleware I mentioned, this config middleware. So we can actually rewrite this host name or this subdomain name into the path. So we go in our kernel and define alias. So let's call it config and add our config middleware. And in our route service provider, we have to make this to an array, and we start with our config. So let's see our output. So we have the config middleware and then the API middleware. So we can set a breakpoint here and let's see what we got. Xdebug, so we end up here, we accept, and we can now examine the incoming requests. So we have attributes here, so nothing to see here. We have the request, nothing to see here. With the query, there's one parameter. We have the path. So the idea is that we can override the request path somehow. Let's see decoded path. Base path. Is there something like set? Offset set. I'm not sure if this works. So the idea would be to override what we inject here. So one thing could also be, as we also need to inject a whole object here. Driver, yeah, that bullshit, storage local, for example. That we start with that, head over to our fit controller again, remove that config. So in this case, it's not config middleware, it would be proof get subdomain. From request, so return the first thing. So in this case we can get config is this get subdomain request. So we would inject XYZ. Let's move over in our fit controller. Config equals request config. I think we can do that. Make a breakpoint here, jump over, and config is XYZ. So now we have to XYZ do the same thing. And we end up somewhere totally different. So the route is config fit. It's fit. Why didn't we get there? Oh, because we have to go to the config middleware and actually let's see if there is Laravel request route. Okay, so we would go request route set parameter config then let's rename that to get config, and we do if request has config, we return request route where is still no proper hinting, get parameter we could forget. So what do we need? Original parameter. So if has parameter, return original request route. Original parameter config. So I think we now should end up with something that is consistent, and we head over to our controller and add the config again. So this is working, and XYZ is not working. Why not? So let's head back to our middleware. So we are here. We don't have the parameter. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, because we are in the subdomain kind of thing. So we would return the host name, these parameters. Okay. Parameter. Okay, with that we can access it. I think that doesn't work, so I would go request set. Let's do config again. This get config. And we will do request route forget parameter config afterwards. So we then can get to our fit controller and remove that config. So hopefully this works now, and if we inject it X, Y, Z, it works as well. So we have a working thing. Not sure if this is the ideal solution or a good one, but that's it for now. Let's double check if return request config. Let's see what we end up. So if XYZ here, and we have XYZ here. All right. So let's head to our image server and image service and see what we can optimize with load image, because we now can only load JPEGs. So there is magic load. And use that. Okay. That takes a while. Okay, no magic load. So I guess we will split that up. Form extension. Actually, it should be a MIME type thing. Is that a thing? I guess. Let's see what we end up. So MIME is image JPEG. So let's do a protected const format loading, whatever, and we would have image JPEG, JPEG load, we would have PNG load, we would have WebP load, we would have image GIF load, and then we would do MIME, then we would method equals self format loading, and then we would call that according to the format, and we're good to go. So maybe we convert that image So cd storage app. Then we have content animals. We convert test.jpg into a test.webp. So convert uses ImageMagick, and we have a webp, and then we can see if we can process a webp. All good. We can remove the breakpoint and also disable Xdebug, so things would be faster, I guess. 500 milliseconds to resize this picture. It's a WebP. If we go JPEG, it's from this cache, so disable cache, also 500k. Loading methods. Let's see, libs load. PHP. Give me the docs. Where are you? So load new from file. Let's see if we can then remove that, and we are faster again. So no need to parse the MIME thing here, so we can remove that again. So let's see, we now get with WebP. What we end up is MIME type image WebP. Okay, so I had the impression that the format is fixed, but in this case we will, I guess, fall back to the format we were given. Let's see the image controller. Yes. Oh, we are falling back to WebP. So let's actually step through it to see. So we have to restart Xdebug again. Start Xdebug. So we have format is WebP, and we get WebP out of it. Because why? Because no format was given, so we should request get. How was it? Route parameters, and we would like to get the path, and extension. Is path explode. No, it's not explode. So there is this strok thing. And then we can remove this intermediate variable, and I think we should end up with So we have path is okay, there is no tramet. Okay, singular, sorry. We end up with path. So we can then remove that, add it here, and then we can remove that WebP. So we would return the extension we were using. So format is, it's not strok. It's strok reverse. Not stroke. strok php strok last token. Explode and yeah, that was in older versions my go-to. So it would be, actually let's prac replace or prac match. So we have the pattern, something like that. We have to use that. And then we use matches one or WebP. Let's do it that way. So if we go for JPEG, we have format JPEG and we deliver a JPEG again. So that's also something I'd like the user then to have configurable in their thing if we would like to use the original format or always fall back to WebP. All right. With that in place, I would move on. As we have talked already a little bit about the config, why not create the models for it and also the migrations? So for me, I really like to tidy up my migrations folder. So the first thing I always do is rather rename that thing into, use the current date. So it's the 20th of May and rename that to create Laravel tables and move every system, not system because that's the next thing I would like to create. So every Laravel related table into that, and then we create or rename the users one into create system tables and give it also the date from today. In this case, the first. So we have the Laravel tables and then the system tables where we start with users. This personal access token is something that Laravel Sanctum is providing. So we can't actually strip that out because this file would be regenerated again, but this password reset token is something we can move over and do the opposite order of creating those multiple tables. remove that one, and this one is stays there. Not sure if we are going to use Sanctum, not decided yet. So I was typically using JWT tokens with a specific library for Laravel, but not sure what we will do in this project. So we have users, as I mentioned in our talk about the whole dashboard thing. So we would also have organizations. So why not set up this? So it's organizations table. You would give it a name, no email, no verified, no remember token. So only timestamps, and then advocate of using soft deletes. So we will add soft deletes. It helps if user fucks up. It has some drawbacks, but in the end, I really like using these soft deletes. Then we would also go for a first name, give it null label, and also last name. This organization will have perhaps multiple fields, but I think name is good for now. The users will definitely get a JSON field for storing their settings, so we will edit a config. Then we have to drop organizations. The next thing, as I mentioned, users will be part of multiple organizations, so therefore we will need a pivot table to store that. So it's schema table, or create actually. And let's call it organization users. It will have timestamps, it will have soft deletes, and it will have an ID to be accessible. And then we go for a table and we call it a string and give it a role. Default will be user. Well picked, Copilot. Drop the table. Organization users, and then we have the config schema, create configs. Should we name it configurations? No, let's stick to configs. Configs, and this is something where we have a table. Whoops. That was not intended. I've resized. Font size. Decrease font size. Table, it's a JSON where we store a configuration, and then we give it a string, and that will be unique. And also something we can do is change the collation. Typically we use UTF-8 MB4 to store all emojis and stuff for everything, but for the name and also to speed up the queries, we can go to ASCII, as we only allow ASCII related. We also go for key. So we have configs, and this is table foreign ID, organization ID, and as we have soft deletes, we won't constrain that in any way. And we drop configs. Then we can focus on creating our models. So we would need a config model which extends the model. We use soft deletes, we use has factory, so we also create factories for our models, and then we use hash ID able from our library. So that's our base setup. which we will carry over to our next model as well. Let's see if what we have users. So that's also something we have to split. We create our next model. We call it organization. Let's get rid of that. Import everything for our organization model. With config organization, then we need this organization user model, which extends model as well, but in this time in this case we use as pivot because it's a pivot table. We also add use is it hash ideable? Yeah, why not? And soft deletes. So then we have pub user return this belongs to user class, and I'd like to be explicit with my keys. So it's pub organization. Return this belongs to organization class, also explicit. Then we add that belongs to relationship or return type. And organization pub has many, return this has many, config class. In this case it's organization ID, and it's not has many, it's configs, but it has many as return value. And then we have pub users, and that's a return this belongs to many. It's user organization. And then we have with pivot, and we give it the role. We are using our organization user class, and we also need with timestamps. Then we can take this to our user and do the exact opposite. So this belongs to organization, and we can flip that. So user ID goes first. Also a good addition, as I'm seeing it right now, is this password hashed cast. So that's typically something I would do when creating user, making a setter to always hash the password. It's a nice addition to the foundation to have that done automatically. So the next thing is that we have this config field that we can bring or cast over as an array. The same thing applies here. So we have protected casts, and config is an array. So as I mentioned, I run PHP bare metal on my machine. That's also applicable to Redis and MySQL, and hence I have MySQL running here. So let's open up our database here. Focus on this database, and so we have our database here. Currently it's empty. If I head over to my env file, we can configure it localhost. In this case the name is elum, and it's MySQL for local. And then we can do migrate, and we have some tables here. So we have the configs, the migrations and stuff. And now we can make use of another model we installed in our first episode, and it's called the Laravel IDE helper, and that helps to generate metadata for models, so it also helps in auto completion. And if we go to our config now, you can see there are all these properties defined in our doc block, and we can use it and refer to it in our code base. So organization user, this hasn't worked because the naming scheme doesn't follow how Laravel likes it. So if we now go there, everything is fine. And we have also these fields or doc blocks populated. All right, so organization also has configs and users. The config has an organization, so that's pub organization, and we return this belongs to organization. Refresh the doc blocks, and now we have also an organization property read here. All right, now over to our database folder. There is the factories. As we change the user, we have to go first name, last name, fake last name. Then we add a class for our organization. And actually it's organization factory. It extends factory import factory, I guess. Add the method stubs definition, and we can return our values. And we have name, and this is this faker company. Then we make our factory for config factory I think is not required right now. We can make a tinker session into user factory, and I have to look that up of how to create many users. So it's Laravel factory, create multiple, count. So count, I'd like to have 3 users. Well, let's start with 9 users. Create. And then we go for and I think I have to use the full path, app models, organization, factory, count, free, create. And now we have 3 organizations in, well, I don't like to, let's reattach. I don't like that floating around. So then we grab user equals user, find the 9th user, and then we use org equals organization, find 3, and yeah, I have to use the full path. And then we do org users, attach, and then we do user. And now we should have something in our database. Let's look. We have the 3rd organization and the 9th user, and we have user as role. That's something I have to alter in the organization user. So we actually have to add protected fillable, and we have to allow role to be filled. So if we go back and find our 3rd organization, Yep, all good. We find our third organization, and okay, and then we find our user 8, and now we can do org users attach and do user and give an optional array, and role is admin. So, and now if we head over, we have organization 3, user 8 with the role admin. Unable to perform all operations. Yeah, go away. Good. So our first models are here. So the next thing is that we add our config XYZ, that's something we used, and we give it organization 3, yeah, and use the timestamps. So that's something I'd like to alter in my config middleware. So actually extract that into get config or get config key. Then we would go for key equals that, and then we do return config first or fail, or is it find or fail? So let's import the class find or fail and go for config first or fail, and we would go where key equals key. So let's hit the route in our browser. Nothing has changed, and if you go to there, make a breakpoint and see what the request config is. Request config has now our model attached. All right. So the next models I'd like to introduce is the ones used to keep track of the images. So we are now one and a half hour into the stream. So I have 10 minutes left, so let's actually start with the migration for the system tables. Let's make another one. Make migration, create not system tables but image tables. So we will have images, table soft deletes, and then we have a string name. I think that's appropriate. Then we go table checks string checksum. Then we have table a config. Foreign key, it's related to a config ID. And I think for easier querying, we should also store the organization ID. So we would go for path. I think we can also add string mime type, and we could also add integer file size. So let's get with those. Let's start with those. And then we make schema, create image renditions. Should we call it renditions? Print table, so it's related to. So we would need the whole path. Actually, it's the route, but yeah, the path to work with. Image ID, soft deletes. And then we would add something like table hit, integer hits, default 0, so we can see how many requests we had to regenerate or whatever that really hit our endpoint. Can head over into our app, add our image. So it extends the model. It has soft deletes, a factory and hash ID able traits. Then we can have a pub config related return this belongs to config class. Then we have organization, return this belongs to organization. Proper type hinting, so belongs to. Then we migrate and write the models. So we have now proper things here. Config ID, checksum, path. And yeah, where is my webcam? So I think I will call it a day for now. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for updates and happy coding.